Well, welcome to the intro to Maya. Autodesk Maya really is the industry standard for 3D modeling and animation. It's a great program. It can be a bit intimidating first simply because there's a lot of menus and a lot of different vocabulary. I often think it feels a little bit like learning a new language, but don't let that get in the way. Don't be intimidated. It's my job to help you walk through this entire process. I promise you can actually do this. So take a deep breath, let's get ready, and let's go.
Right, so this is the Maya 2020 interface. It is as Maya has been for a long, long time. One of the positives and negatives of Maya, I would say, is that they're always adding new tools, but they don't change the interface a lot, which is a good thing. I don't like just moving stuff around just for the sake of saying, hey, we did a new update. So that's one of the things that Maya's pretty good about. They for the most part, unless it's a really major update, they keep things where they always are. So whether or not you're working in 2020 or 2023 or 2014, you're going to be able to find most of the things because they don't move that much. Okay, so this is the Maya interface. So this is the 3D viewer right here. So it is the workspace. Essentially, it's probably better to consider it like a stage where we're going to put all of our pieces, all of our digital assets. Let's say, for example, we were building the interior of a house. We would put our floor, we'd put our walls, we would put our furniture, art on the walls, things like that. So it's just, and then we'd light it up just like you would if you were shooting something with a real camera. Just think of it in those terms, and it really is going to make it a lot easier to understand. So this is the way it works. Now I'm using my mouse. It's better if you use a three-fingered mouse. That's usually the pretty standard these days, because every single one of those buttons actually means something. So for example, now I'm going to left mouse click and hold down the Alt key. And when I do that, it allows me to kind of rotate around the space. Now, if I also use the middle mouse wheel, I can zoom in and zoom out. So that, now this is just the perspective view. You can really kind of think of it as a bird's eye view. So just kind of a camera up there looking down on the general feel of the scene. And so that's just kind of the base where we end up when we first open up Maya. Now what you'll see up over here is a lot of different menus with a lot of different icons, and this is called a shelf. The shelf right here, you can see there's a lot of different tabs. There's tabs for curves and surfaces. Poly modeling is where we're going to spend a lot of time today. There's a tab for sculpting. There's a lot of sculpting tools in here. They're pretty good. There's rigging. This is for if you want to rig a character with bones and things like that to make it move like it would if it were a human. There's animation tools, etc. So there's a whole bunch of them in here. This is Arnold, where we set up a lot of the rendering for this whole thing. But for now, let's just stay in the poly modeling tab right here. Okay, so one of the things we've got here, so we've got, this is a polygon sphere, a polygon cube, and a polygon cylinder. If I click on that, it's going to load one up for me. I'm also going to show you that these are just basically shortcuts to the other menus that are up top here. So for example, if I wanted to create a sphere or a cube or a cylinder or whatnot, I'll show you. So there's a whole bunch of here. So polygon primitives, that's what we're interested in right now. So there's a whole bunch of them in here, actually. There is the sphere, there's a cube, there's a cylinder, there's a cone, a torus, which is a donut, just a flat plane, there's a disc. So not all of them are represented in the shelf there, but I wanted to show you that in the Create Polygon Primitives menu, this is where you're going to find a lot of the ones that you can start with. These are really useful tools just from the standpoint of they're a good base shape to build something. So let's go ahead and bring one of those in. I'm just going to click on this right now, and I'm going to bring in a polygon sphere. So when I click on it, you'll see it's going to end up right in the middle here. And so one of the things that I should tell you when we're working in what we call a 3D space, this goes back to geometry. So if you remember any of that from being in middle school or high school, 3D space actually has, as you might expect, 3 dimensions. There's X, Y, and Z. X in Maya space anyway. It's not always the same in all programs, but in Maya space, X is left and right, Y is up and down, and Z is forward and backward. So those are the ones that you want to make sure that you understand. Now, my sphere here, you can see when I'm clicked off of it, it's no longer selected. But if I click directly on the sphere with my left mouse button, you can see that it highlights like that. And if I zoom in, I can either zoom in with the middle mouse wheel, or I can hit the F key and it will just frame it up for me so I can see it and I can understand. Well, that's cool. You can see it, and it also represents over here in what's called the outliner. This is just a list of all the things that are in your scene. If the outliner hasn't shown up for you, you'll find it. This is the button for it right here. So if your Maya showed up like this little button right here will open up the outliner. I tend to work with it on because it's just easier sometimes when you get a lot of things in the scene to just be able to go and find it on the list over there. And that way, if there's something in front of it or whatever, you can just go ahead and select it from the list, and it makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so let's say we want to move this thing around. All right, so there are a bunch of different ways to do it. I'm going to show you 2. So over on here on the left, on this menu right here on this side, there are 3 menus that are actually 4 menus that are important. So this is the move tool, and you can see that every time you hold your mouse over one of the tools, you're going to get a menu that tells you a little bit more about that tool. So you can see this one, it says it's the move tool, move selected object, blah, 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 right? That's all there. But you can also see just on the right-hand side, it says W. That should tell you something. That is also the keyboard equivalent to what you're going to want to do. So I'm going to just show you a couple of things. So this is rotate. And you can see now it says the same thing. It also tells you that is E for if you want to rotate stuff. This one below it here is scale. And you'll also see that tells you that it uses the R key for that. Now, this is really important for you to understand. Now, I'm happy when you're first understanding Maya and you just kind of poking around in it. It's cool if you want to use your mouse and just to get going. I will tell you that from my perspective, I've been using 3D software for a long time, way longer than I really would care to admit. But if you actually have any intention of being good or efficient at the software, you're not going to be a mouse-driven person in this. You're going to have to understand your keyboard shortcuts so that you can just use both hands and really get to it, because that really is how you're going to understand this. So I'll start here, right? So I'm going to click off, but I'm going to select it, and I'm going to go over here. If I click it, you'll see that it now is giving me these manipulators right here. So now I'm going to click off again. Now, if I hit the W key, so the cool thing is these keys are right in a row, W, E, and R. So if I just go up and put my finger on the keyboard, if I hit the W key, select it, it's going to be there. Or if I hit the E key, you'll see a different set of manipulators come up for rotation. And if I hit the R key, a different set of manipulators come up for scale, right? So I'm going to go back, I'm going to hit W, and the manipulators are there. Now, a little fun fact here, if you want to make the manipulators bigger, so they're not sitting like within the bounds of the object, you can hit the plus key or the minus key, and it'll make them bigger and smaller for you. That is it's a handy tip to know, because sometimes You get objects that are super small and they're nested deep within something. You can plus and minus through that, and it will really help you to be able to grab hold of things that you want to. Now, okay, so let's talk about moving this thing around. These manipulators are like way too big, but that's good right there. So green is on the Y menu here, and let me move my image of myself around here. So I'm going to move it up and down, and you can see that it does that. I'm going to go left and right. Now you don't have to just click on any one of these, but I'm doing that just as a, as a display thing. If you click directly in the center as well, then you can move it kind of at your own discretion anywhere on the in the space here. Okay. Now, one of the things that you'll probably notice in Maya here is over here on the right-hand side. This is called the channel box menu, and basically, when Maya talks about channels, it's really talking about channels of information. Okay, so basically, we're talking about translate X, translate Y, translate Z, also rotate X, Y, and Z, scale X, Y, and Z. This just gives you the mathematical numbers for how things are moving. Now, if you might remember, one of the things that I was saying is that this should bring you back to probably middle school geometry. And if you remember, one of the things about geometry is, like I said, it exists on X, Y, and Z space. But within the X, Y, and Z space, there's also numeric values of things. So let's say, for example, and Maya absolutely uses the numeric values. If we didn't use them, we couldn't do anything with it. So that's what's being represented over here on the right-hand side. So translate X, translate Y, translate Z, right? So if I move this thing, let me just say one more thing here. One of the things that's really important to understand about X, Y, and Z space is the confluence or the joining of X, Y, and Z would give you a mathematical value of 0 on the X, 0 on the Y, 0 on the Z. That's called the origin, 0, 0, 0. And so any movements that we do off of the origin is going to give you a mathematical number that you can understand where something has gone. Okay, so for example, I'm going to just numerically go in here and I'm going to make it 0, tab, 0, tab, 0. So it's all back to where it was. This is how it loads in. Every object that you load in is going to be somehow connected to the origin. And so when it comes in, you should have, if you haven't done anything with it, your values should be 0, 0, 0 all the way around. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. So if I do a translate Y, I'm just going to move it up, right? So you'll see that I have moved up. I'm going to numerically lock that in. 1. Okay, so I've moved up 1 unit, and I'll get into what those units actually mean. 1 unit on the Y axis. Okay. And so that's how that works. Now I'm going to go forward, and forward is this direction here. I'm going to rotate around so we can see a little bit better. Forward on the Z axis. I'm sorry, I'm looking the wrong direction. Okay, so sideways on the X axis, like that. And this is to the right, and so we're going to get a positive value. If we go to the left, beyond 0, we're going to get a negative value. That's how that works. Same now, if I push forward on the blue manipulator here, it's going to go, it's negative. It's actually moving away from the camera, and it's coming closer to the camera. That is a positive value. So that's how we do the manipulation here. So that is the initial basics of just creating an object and moving it around in 3D space.
If you're enjoying our free content, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, head on over to DMI.edu to learn more about our online courses, where you can grow even more into the techniques professionals use today. We don't just teach software, we teach industry. Be sure to learn more at DMI.edu.